What's going on, everybody? How we doing? How we living? All right. It's your boy Moose. All right. Really appreciate you guys coming back to the channel every single time. It always means so much to me. So keep doing that. And what I'm going to talk about today in this video, uh, there's a lot of things going on. Obviously, every day there's something new to cover and unpack. But what I want to discuss in this particular video, because it's becoming something more of like a lightning rod issue in this country, is race. And it's not like it's something that's prevalent. It seems more like it's just like regulated to the internet and to just things that you see that are just online, because it's not an everyday circumstance that you're going to run into this. But if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, anything can happen. But to focus in on this particular story of the Carmelo Anthony verdict that was just given after maybe like a 2-day trial or something like that, it was very quickly decided that he was going to be guilty based off the jury. And people were talking about the jury. I'm like, look, biases or non-biases, the facts are the facts of what happened in this case. Now, people think that there's some kind of, that there's different narratives going on. But look, as far as I'm concerned, there's no reason why that boy should have taken that other boy's life. Okay. These were two high school age kids, okay, who had their whole lives ahead of them. And that's both been snatched away from both of them. Okay. So this is really just a sad story and kind of a microcosm of what's kind of happening in the world today in these Western cultures. It really is more like a cultural issue, but that's a different topic for a different day. But in this particular video, though, like I said, I want to talk about the issue at hand, and I want to discuss, or at least just go over another content creator's review of someone else. Who else is somebody who's they're reacting to the case and they're giving their thoughts and opinions, and it doesn't necessarily align with kind of how they built their audience and following. But I don't want to just keep going on. This Carmelo Anthony case it's a highly polarized case. It's a lightning rod case, and like I said, people are using it as like some kind of jumping point for race. So with that being said, let me just get right into it and let these guys just go to work, because I really respect both of these content creators, and I just think it's interesting to see what's happening here. All right.
Go to waste, whether it's a fabricated crisis or an organic crisis, whether the Carmelo Anthony / Austin Metcalf murder is organic or fabricated. One thing is for sure, they want to slip the psychological operation wedge into society, creating a further divide, because if we as Americans stay divided, then they can continue to conquer us. And by they, I mean the Zio International Banking.
He's right on point with that. That's who's running the strings invisibly behind everything. Okay, so just keep that in mind. All right, it's the people with the money, and who has all the money? Okay, the bankers. Who do the bankers work for?
Cartel and the corporate elitists who are building the massive meta data centers, which are really the surveillance / human robotics replacement centers. That's what it's all about, right? They're sucking away all that power, all that energy, all those resources, even to the point of 47,000 people in Lake Tahoe being told that in 2027, they're going to have to look for their power elsewhere because we, the data centers, are taking it all from you. So you're going to take energy that's keeping people alive so that you can feed computer chips and machines and build databases. The handwriting is on the wall, people. So with this Carmelo Anthony trial verdict of 35 years for murder, There's a lot of people that are pissed off about this. So I want to wade into this cesspool of diversion, let's say, so that we can sort things out, because the bigger psychological operation here is not just the divide and conquer, but they don't want you to see or understand what true justice is. Is it reasonable to plunge a knife into the aorta of a person who has just merely pushed you out from under a tent? Should Austin and Hunter Metcalf have pushed Karmelo Anthony? Who initiated the aggression? And was the right to self-defense forfeited by Karmelo Anthony by saying, touch me and see what happens, as he puts his hand inside of his bag, grabbing hold of the knife that would soon serve as the weapon that kills Austin Metcalf? Now, Anthony Brian Logan, who's on the conservative side, is taking a very unpopular conservative opinion, saying that he believes that Karmelo Anthony rightly defended himself. He says there have been other incidents similar to this in nature, but for some reason, the penalties were much different. Let's take a listen.
Today, we got to talk about Karmelo Anthony being found guilty of murder in the 2025 stabbing death of Austin Metcalf at a Texas track meet, and he's been sentenced to 35 years in the penitentiary. Now, this, in my humble opinion, is a gross miscarriage of justice. This is ridiculous. There have been other cases like this, similar to this, in that same ballpark, that did not get anywhere near this amount of years. And in many cases, the case was beat completely.
Now, one of the examples that he's going to give is the Kyle Rittenhouse case. And he says what happened with Kyle Rittenhouse is the same thing that happened with Karmelo Anthony.
There was no jail time at all. But before I get to that, let's back up a little bit here to recap. How did we get here today? April 2025, there's a track meet in Texas, Calhoun County, to the north and east of Dallas. Austin Metcalf and his twin brother are there. Friends are there. Karmelo Anthony is there. Karmelo Anthony goes to the other high school's tent because apparently that was the only one that was up, because it was raining, number one, and number two, he sees a friend. He's talking to the friend and also seeking shelter from the rain.
And that friend is Eddie Parra.
There's no problem. He's in the tent. It's all good. Here comes Austin Metcalf, his twin brother Hunter, and other people. He's confronted by at least one of the people. He's asked 15 times or so to get up and leave. Karmelo refuses.
And why would he refuse? What would you expect that refusal to yield in the people who are asking you to get out from under their tent?
Now, I think here's when there is some cultural disconnect that is happening. Karmelo apparently reaches into his bag and says, touch me and see what happens. Some see that as a provocation, like he was daring him to put his hands on him.
Isn't that a dare? Touch me and see what happens is kind of a dare.
That's not what I got from that. What I got from that is, I'm warning you to not touch me. But of course, what does he do? He pushes him, shoves him, touches him.
No, he's actually, and he's not warning him not to touch him. Saying touch me and see what happens is inviting him to touch him as a challenge, not please don't touch me. He's saying, go ahead and touch me. It's hard for me to believe that Anthony Brian Logan doesn't see the difference here.
Gives him another warning. He does it again. He hits him one time.
And I don't think he hit him. I've seen the testimony. I've looked this up. He pushed him, and then he pushed him again. And as far as I know, that's the end. That's the beginning and the end of the physical assault. Now, in my opinion, neither Austin nor Hunter nor anybody should have put their hands on anyone. If you don't consent to be touched, don't touch somebody. And if you touch somebody, you have crossed the line. Am I saying that you've crossed the line to the point where you deserve to be killed? Absolutely not. But if it's true that Hunter and Austin touched Karmelo, they did wrong. They had other options. They could have looked for a track and field coach and said, hey, this guy's not getting out from under our tent. Could you take care of this? He's not on our team. He belongs to the school on the other team.
With a 3.5-inch pocket knife. That's what it was. Oh, he had a big dagger. He had a sword. It was a 3.5-inch pocket knife.
Who cares if it's a sword or a dagger? It still did the same damage and resulted in the same thing, the death of a 17-year-old kid.
Hits him one time, And unfortunately, he dies. May you rest in peace. Prayers out to the family. Now, if you ask me, that's self-defense. I'm telling you, don't touch me. You and your friends are surrounding me.
You're not saying don't touch me. You're saying touch me and find out what happens, buddy. Come on. I dare you. It is a dare.
I'm in fear that I'm going to be seriously injured.
Are you really? It's in the middle of the day. It's a rainstorm. 20 people reportedly are under this tent. You're at a school, on school grounds. Are you really fearing for your life? Are you really, Anthony?
Or I might die.
Look at the double extra large wife. That was the phrase I heard from my former college friend the day before my wedding.
So
wait a second. What? Say that again.
Don't touch me. You and your friends are surrounding me. I'm in fear that I'm going to be seriously injured or I might die. So I'm telling you, don't do it. You're doing it anyway. I tell you again, you're doing it anyway. You get hit one time and you die. That's not murder. That's not 35 years in prison. That's self-defense, in my humble opinion. But the jury thought differently, and they said, okay, you're guilty, 35 years. And by the way, I've never seen a court case wrap up so quickly. I mean, they started, just a few days ago, right? They started a few days ago. They found him guilty, and then a couple hours later, they sentenced him. Usually, in these kind of cases, there's a longer period of time for the trial, and then the sentencing happens later.
That is true.
By the way, speaking about the trial, the defense...
That is true. It usually goes on way longer than this. This was a rare case.
And that's the thing, too. It's like what I mentioned earlier in the video about the jury. There's a lot to discuss about that. But bottom line is, I'm a black content creator reacting to this, and race doesn't matter to me as far as, these kind of issues. It's all about what are the facts. The facts be the facts be the facts. That's facts over everything, right? And it's just the way that everything's been explained and presented in the media and by people reporting on it is that it was like ABL said, it was like really it's a cultural thing, because like I mentioned earlier, because in one hand, Karmelo Anthony is saying, touch me, see what happens, which can be looked at as a threat on the other angle or other perspective. But if he said, touch me, see what's happening, as in stating, warning you to, hey, if you do touch me because you're being aggressive towards me, I will have a retaliation of some kind. So it's very, very, it's all the semantics, of it all. And now it's like you have to get into the details. But for them to wrap up so quickly, it's crazy that they did that very quickly. I agree with both of these guys.
Where, man, they just a couple days, one and done. They are through.
Attorney here was completely worthless. There's rumors talking about the family blew all their money from the online fundraising on gifts and trinkets and had to get a public defender. Now, I've not seen that verified anywhere. It's just a rumor. I don't know who this man is. If he's a top attorney in the area, a public defender, I don't know what's going on, because I don't see any, real sources that say it one way or the other. I asked people where they see that. They said social media. It's like, okay, exactly. Where's a real source? So I don't know. But either way it goes, the defense attorney was terrible. They didn't really bring any witnesses, no experts, no nothing. It was almost like the defense attorney, the state's attorney, the judge, and the dad were all in cahoots, because from the beginning, they did not see a real defense here.
The dad, the defense attorney, the judge, they're all in cahoots to railroad Karmelo Anthony?
Maybe in their mind, it was a clear-cut case from the beginning. You can't do what he did. There's no defense. So we're going to go ahead and just hang him high. Hang him high, 12 noon, throw him away, and then have that be that.
Why would the dad want to do that to his own son? What's the motive there?
Which is ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. There have been other cases in Texas like this where this is not the result. Let's go back to Benton High School, 3.5 hours or 3 hours south of Dallas in Texas still. We're not in Louisiana. We're not in Arkansas. We're not in Oklahoma. We're not in New Mexico. We're still in Texas. 3 hours south of Texas, out of high school, 2022, there's a fight. You have one student, another student, and the other student's friends. One student's white, one student Hispanic. The white kid stabs the Hispanic kid in a bathroom during the fight. He is not found guilty of murder. He's found guilty of criminally negligent homicide. So he had a knife and there was a fight and it's self-defense. Why did he not get murder? Where's the 35 years in the penitentiary? Where's the swift sentencing? Where's the, okay, you go to court on Thursday and on Tuesday, you're thrown away. Where's that at for this case? Now, I'm not the one to cry racism. That's just not what I do. I defended Kyle Rittenhouse. When he did what he did, you're going across state lines, you got a gun and you shooting people. I defended him because you're defending others. And the people who he shot were attacking him. So I defended him. And Kyle Rittenhouse, you ought to be ashamed of yourself going on TV, trying to talk crazy about Karmelo Anthony. You are in the same boat as him. What's the difference? Your race?
Was he really in the same boat as him? Karmelo Anthony was under a tent that he didn't belong in. He was already told, according to the record, 15 times to leave. He refused to leave. Kyle Rittenhouse was walking on a public street. He wasn't under a private tent where the people who were supposed to be under the tent because they belonged to that particular school were in essentially a private tent belonging to that school's team. It's not the same thing when you're walking out on a street in the public and then somebody runs at you and tries to bash you in the head with a skateboard and you're vastly outnumbered by a bunch of other radical people who want to see you go down. What happened in Wisconsin was clearly a powder keg. What was happening under this tent was not that. It was just a track meet. Kyle Rittenhouse wasn't saying, come at me and see what's going to happen. He wasn't out there provoking the crowd. He was just out there exercising his Second Amendment right. These situations are not the same. And it's not the same with that other Texas case either. There wasn't a tent full of witnesses to see what actually happened. It happened privately, away from prying eyes, inside of a bathroom.
Karmelo Anthony, you are in the same boat as him. What's the difference? Your race, your location, what's the difference? I don't see the difference. You're a defender. You're defending yourself the same way he was defending himself. Some say you shouldn't have had that gun, which was not yours, and you were underage. Just like some say you shouldn't have had that knife. But in the case of...
Wait a minute. Open carrying, exercising your constitutionally protected right in a public place where the situation is volatile and you may actually need that gun versus being on school property, which prohibited those guns. And I'm not saying that that is being pro Second Amendment, and I'm not saying anything positive about public schools, but pretty much everybody knows the policy. If you get caught with that thing, you're going to be in trouble. Even Karmelo Anthony, by his actions, showed that having that knife and doing what he did with it was wrong when he threw it into the bushes when he was running away. And he wasn't pinned to the ground being pummeled. He wasn't being knocked to the ground. He was being shoved out of the tent. There's definitely a difference, Anthony.
In Benton, Texas, Benton High School, Texas, you got a knife involved, but there was no 35 years. There was a murder conviction. I defended Daniel Penny. And Daniel Penny, of course, he's white. And the victim, Jordan Neely, was black. Why did I defend Daniel Penny?
Because he was defending other people on the train from a crazy man?
Because he was defending people on the train, black, white, Puerto Rican, and Kennedy stripe, from this violent person who was threatening to engage in violence, who was threatening to do things that would ruin the safety, ruin the security of those on the train.
That on its face is not the same as Karmelo Anthony.
Although we didn't actually hit anybody and there was no weapon, as far as I know, I still defended Daniel Penny. George Zimmerman, let's talk about that. Remember Trayvon Martin? Now, in this case, it was really Zimmerman's fault, but he was able to beat the case because he said he's getting beat up too much. He's getting pounded into the pavement. There's no weapon. There's no knife, no gun, no nothing on Trayvon, just fists. But since I'm getting beat up too much, I'm at risk. I fear for my life. I fear for my safety. I fear that I might be seriously injured. I could pull my gun and shoot him, and then he beat the case. So if we're going to say that's okay, if we're going to say Daniel Penny is okay, if we're going to say Cal Rittenhouse is okay, if we're going to say that Chike Rich Chow out there in South Carolina is okay. And by the way, I defended all these people because why? Self-defense. I am a staunch proponent of self-defense. I don't care what color the person is who is defending themselves, nor do I care what the color is of who they're defending themselves against.
But don't you care what the situation is? So anytime somebody pushes you, you can just get out a knife and just stab them in the heart. Anytime somebody trips you, you should be able to get your gun out and empty your magazine. What are you saying here, Anthony?
It doesn't matter. My standards.
All right, I think I've seen enough. I've been able to kind of get an idea of both men's opinions. I think that these guys are more aligned than they are different as opposed to each other. But I think my man, what's this channel? High Impact Flicks. High Impact Flicks. And shout out to the channel. That's the guy that's reviewing ABL's channel. It's just he's making good points, but I think ABL had a good point about, you know, all these situations happening and everyone else getting off, besides in the Carmelo Anthony situation. Now, the George Zimmerman one, that's a big lightning rod case still that I think people still don't really have the grasp of what happened, because like ABL said, if roles were reversed, that man, he'd be in jail. I guarantee you. If some white guy started attacking some elderly black guy, and the black guy pulled out his gun to say it was self-defense, would that still fly? Would it still work the same way? I don't know. I'm just saying. It just seems like these are great points that ABL brought up, but now, albeit they may be different situations, but they're all very similar in nature. But you see the type of sentencing and punishment that's given out to people in the other situations as opposed to Carmelo. It's just food for thought to think about. But yeah, I mean, either way, he was in the wrong. He shouldn't have had that knife on him. That's not something he should have done. But you can't go back and take the time away and you can't go back and give Austin Metcalf his life back. I wish he could still be here. So prayers to him and his family, but it's messed up, and I feel like this kind of tension is exactly what those bankers want, the Ashkenazi Jews, okay? Let's just put it out there. That's what they want, this kind of thing. They want to be able to conquer, because they want us all divided in this country, okay? George Soros, I'm looking at you, okay? Antifa, we're looking at you. And that stuff that's happening in Belfast, I think a lot of this stuff is really being organized, okay? Because a lot of that stuff is looking like BLM, like the BLM riots were 5-6 years ago, which is happening now in Ireland and France, okay, with the breaking down of their cultures and stuff. So, yeah, guys, I'm going to stay on it. We got a lot of stuff to cover. It's going to be a crazy summer, I feel like. We just getting started. So make sure y'all stay tuned, and make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. And I'll make sure I'll be back for the next video in enticing and informative and engaging fashion. Okay, how about that? I'll catch you guys in the next video. Deuces.